We arrived in eastern Poland, near the border with Belarus. Here lies one of Europe's oldest lowland forests, Białowieża Forest. Often described as the last remaining fragment of Europe's primeval lowland forest, a place where natural processes still shape the landscape. At its heart lies Białowieża National Park, the strictly protected core of this ancient forest. I had been here before, I had seen European bison before, but never in winter, and winter changes everything. That evening it started to snow, at first gently, then steadily. It kept snowing through the night, and I couldn't wait to see what the forest would look like in the morning. By morning, the landscape had completely changed. Fresh snow covered the fields and forest edges. Every track from the previous day had disappeared. The wind had stopped. And then we saw them. European bison, the largest land mammal in Europe. Adult males can weigh up to 800 or even 900 kilograms, nearly 2 meters at the shoulder. That morning we saw only bulls, dark bodies moving slowly across the wide fields. In winter, their thick coats make them appear even more massive. Although generally calm, they are powerful wild animals. They can run surprisingly fast, and if pressured, they can become dangerous. We kept a safe distance, giving them the space they deserve. At the beginning of the 20th century, scenes like this no longer existed. The European bison had disappeared from the wild. Only a small number survived in captivity. Every individual alive today descends from that limited founder population. Reintroduction began in the mid-20th century. Białowieża became the center of their return. Today, several thousand European bison live across Europe. So standing here in fresh snow, watching these bulls move freely again, that history feels very real. Seeing animals this large in a clean, white winter landscape is rare. As a photographer, this is exactly what I hope for. Fresh snow simplifies everything. The background becomes minimal. The bison become the whole story. But it doesn't last long. Wind, temperature, light, one change is enough. That morning, everything aligned, and I was honestly just happy to be here. Not only observing, but trying to turn that moment into images. The landscape had changed again. The snow that had been soft the day before was now frozen and crisp. For a brief moment in the morning, sunlight broke through the clouds, touching the frozen fields and lightening the frost on the branches. Then it disappeared again. The temperature stayed well below zero, and every step made a sharp sound beneath our boots. Breath turned instantly into mist. I love walking in conditions like this, searching for animals or for their tracks in the snow. In winter, the forest reveals movement in a different way. You rarely see everything that happens, only fragments. Tracks crossing a path, a trail disappearing between the trees. Signs of life that passed hours earlier. I love walking these small paths in Białowieża National Park. I could walk them for hours. In winter, they feel endless. That day we saw roe deer moving quietly through the forest and heard woodpeckers deeper inside the trees. Even when you come for one species, the forest is layered. Eventually we found bison again, partially hidden in light mist. Their fur was frozen along their backs, and ice crystals clung to their coats. In winter, European bison grow a dense insulating coat. Their thick winter fur traps air close to the body, helping reduce heat loss. They feed slowly on bark, twigs, and dry grasses beneath the snow. Energy must be conserved because deep snow increases the cost at every step. From a photography perspective, frost adds something special. It keeps snow on branches longer and adds texture to the landscape. Ice crystals on the bison fur make winter visible in the images. Mist can enhance the atmosphere, but if it becomes too thick, contrast disappears and details soften. Some moments feel cinematic, others simply don't translate into strong photographs. Working in winter often means accepting that balance. The scene itself had not changed much. Snow-covered trees, bison slowly foraging in the fields. But the weather was different. Frost, mist, and softer light changed the entire atmosphere. The same landscape suddenly looked completely different. This is one of the fascinating parts of wildlife photography. Animals might behave the same way, but light, weather, and atmosphere can transform the mood of an image. Sometimes the difference between two photographs is not the subject, it is the weather. Later that day, we visited one of the winter feeding areas. In Białowieża, supplementary feeding is organized during the coldest months. It helps reduce crop damage outside the forest and influences the distribution of herds. A larger herd was gathered there, females with calves. Their behavior was different from the bulls we had seen earlier. They were more alert and more coordinated. European bison typically live in matriarchal groups. Females and calves stay together, while adult bulls often move alone or in small bachelors groups outside the rutting season. In winter, however, several groups may gather together, forming larger seasonal aggregations. At the feeding site, the females watched us carefully, while the calves stayed close to their mothers. Even while feeding, the herd remained attentive. Conservation in Europe often means coexistence. Wild animals living within landscapes shaped by people. It might not be untouched wilderness, but it is still wild. The bison remain free-ranging, they move where they choose, and they disappear when they want to. The next day, the weather changed quickly. In the early morning, a red fox crossed the road ahead of us. Another reminder that this forest belongs to many species. As the morning went on, clouds moved in and the wind began sweeping across the open fields. Snow no longer fell gently. It drifted across the landscape, sometimes rising from the fields in spinning clouds of snow. Trucks disappeared within minutes, and the open spaces suddenly felt exposed. We continued searching, driving slowly along the forest edges and stopping from time to time to watch and listen. In conditions like this, large animals often seek shelter. The forest offers protection from the wind, and dense stands of trees reduce exposure. Eventually we found one, a solitary male standing among birches. Birch trees are common in this region, their pale trunks blending easily into the snow. The bull stood almost motionless, facing into the wind and chewing slowly. From time to time, he shook snow from his back before returning to stillness again. He did not seem disturbed, just patient, waiting. There was no dramatic interaction. Only a large animal and during winter on its own terms. Some days bring perfect light and open encounters. Other days bring wind, distance, and long hours of searching. Both are part of wildlife photography. Last morning the weather changed again. The wind had stopped. The sky slowly began to clear. Cold sunlight spread across the snowy fields. We searched once more along the forest edges and across the open clearings. But the bison were nowhere to be seen. Perhaps they had moved deeper into the forest, or perhaps they were simply somewhere we had not looked. That is often how wildlife photography works. You do not always get the moment you imagine. But seeing European bison moving freely through the ancient forests is already something special. A species that once disappeared from the wild is now here again. And in winter, their presence feels even more powerful. Maybe I did not capture all the images I had imagined, but that is also a part of the journey, and sometimes it simply means there is a reason to return.